Let me say the point that the gentleman from Alaska was making is that there is no requirement that there be a member of the public or a consumer on the board. There may be, but a president may decide that with all these experts on the board, I better make sure that I have my own expert. So there is no requirement that could have been in the bill. Mr. Rinaldi went down a list of problems with which I could not be more sympathetic, but they are congressionally inflicted problems. Sequester and shutdown and the appropriation process. So what we have in this bill is that the FAA, not the Congress, should change. And the frustration with the Congress, and for that matter, even with Next Gen, is well placed, although we see some movement on Next Gen. So I want to say I appreciate how the chairman has reached out to the minority so that there are provisions in here with which I agree, and I understand the frustration, and I don't believe that there is any case to be made for the problem-laden FAA. I really don't, but its dysfunction does not make the case for this proposal. What is most surprising to me, because I'm trying to find out how this would work in practice, what's most surprising to me is how it encourages litigation. The last thing I would have expected from my friends on the other side is a system that said, hey, sue me if you don't like it. And that's essentially, and I want to ask you about this, that essentially what I think it says. If the secretary, you can go to the secretary, if the secretary disagrees and you can't reach some agreement, then somebody's got to bring a court suit. So you put it in the part of our separation of power system that is the judiciary, that is the slowest, and the framers made it the slowest on purpose. I'm trying to find out how this thing would work. How does this creature work? For example, there's a problem in this region, District of Columbia, Maryland, Virginia, of unbearable noise. So we go to the FAA. Actually, they have some powers. They can issue rules. There are things they can do. I don't like the fact that there's not a firewall between them that gets into legal technicalities. So how would this work? Is there rulemaking power here? Does it have the same presumption of that unless it's arbitrary, it goes into effect, because that's how the courts operated when it's an agency? So how does it work? I'm a member of the public that can't stand this noise. Actually, that's the case all over America now. Would somebody tell me how I get this corporation to respond to that consumer problem that is now plaguing all parts of the United States? Somebody speak up.
Well,
what's your question?
My question is, how would
the noise?
How would one get from this body a remedy for this problem? I'm asking, do you have rulemaking authority?
Is that a noise problem?
I'm giving that as an example.
This court, we have in the bill the remedies to have the community be involved to make sure that if there's noise problems, that they're going to be addressed.
Mr. Chairman, only because that's in my district. Sure. I'm trying to ask how the public addresses this agency. I know how it addresses the FAA. I know how the FAA communicates, rulemaking, et cetera. I'm trying to find, suppose it's with Next Gen, whatever they're doing, how do I approach this agency and how do the courts respond?
Well, the bill itself is very vague. My understanding is it appears to be largely modeled after Canada. I had an opportunity to visit NAV Canada last summer. We asked specifically about concerns like that, noise concerns, for example. We were told that they have an opportunity to call up and register their concern, and that's the end of it. We see that they also have that ability in determining levels of service and in what rates and charges in Canada. They put forward, here's what we want to do, and as long as they follow the methodology that they said that they would follow, then there is no real appeal to that. So we think you're raising a concern that is very important.
Gentlelady, yield.
I'd be pleased to yield to the gentleman.
It's in the bill that we get communities involved in these decisions, but at the end of the day, as we've pointed out, the FAA, which back at government, the regulator would be involved in this, similar to the way it is today.
That's what I'm trying to find. I was just trying to find
Sure.
the mechanism. I know how I approach
that-
the FAA. I don't know how I approach
You would-
this entity.
You would approach the FAA like you do today in this situation.
Well, you know, they might issue a rule. Can they issue a rule? Can this entity issue a rule?
No, they're not. It's not a regulating body. It's a service provider. It's a service provider that will manage the airspace. When it comes to safety and regulatory things, it goes back to the governmental body. So if there's an issue like that, you know, hopefully they can work through the process with the airlines on a noise problem, for instance, because I know we got noise problems in many cities. But at the end of the day, would go back to the regulator, and the regulator is the FAA in government.
You see, Mr. Chairman, then we still have the mixed together, and the public doesn't know really to whom do I go to get for example, a next-gen remedy. You know, most of the noise is next-gen, is a next-gen problem. And if it's this entity that's going to revise next-gen, I would think I should go to them to talk to them.
Well, next gen would because of the reduction in the way that people are able to land, you'd have less noise, we believe. But also, if there's a remedy needed, just as there is today, you go back to the regulator, and that would be the FAA that remains in government. This is not a regulatory body; it's a service provider.